Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryang karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. We are on the topic of self-growth. Another name for it is Karma Yoga. Yoga and Karma. Karma means action, and Yoga means converting your ordinary actions, your ordinary challenges and situations and events, and all of that is an opportunity for transformation, for sharpening your instrument, like taking perhaps a rock, and or whatever, right? A knife, and then you want to sharpen that knife, right? Because a sharp knife cuts through things very easy. A blunt knife takes a lot of effort to cut through things to get to the heart of the matter. So we can sharpen this instrument of ours like a knife to get things done, with a greater sense of composure and more discernment and more sensitivity, more strength, more sense of, knowing what is to be done. So our instrument becomes like a knife, and Karma Yoga is like the sharpener of our instrument. And the reason why we need this is because, see, if we just let our instrument go through a biological force, biological age, then it loses that sharpness that was endowed to you and me naturally, right? As a young person, we were endowed with that naturally. But then the memory starts to wane away and so on. And so, right, the thinking is not there anymore. And, you're out of university, you're out of school, you're out of the world, a lot of participation. So in one sense, it's good. It gives you peace. But on the other sense, it denies this instrument from further sharpening itself up. So in that sense, we need a method that will continue improving this instrument. And this method, Karma Yoga, we said, is two primary components. The first was whenever a action comes out of this instrument, there is always a way to ask, what different can I do this time, right? That I haven't considered before. So every thing in your life, your children, your employees at work, employer, colleagues, patients at work, every one of them becomes your chance for doing the right thing. That means thinking about your well-being, but also you have to think about their well-being because you live in an interconnected world. So it's not possible to, end of the day, to only think about my well-being, but at the exclusion of somebody else. One can get away with it for a long time, but it makes the instrument blunt. So in a sense, you have no choice to include both yourself and the other person, so that both, right, profit from whatever you want to call it, a deal, the transaction, the coming together. At the same time, this component, which we call Ishvara Arpana Buddhi, I'll write it down. Buddhi. So Arpana means offering. Okay, and this is component 1 of Karma Yoga. Okay, I'm just going to change the aperture here so you get a sharper view like that. Okay, so that's component 1. So in a sense that you're not just offering to anybody, you're offering to Ishvara, because that person, right, that you're giving to, or yourself also, don't forget yourself, please, both of you are in the same order. Both of you are interconnected. So in that sense that whatever, right, I choose to do, not do, or do something different, right, that goes back to the order, right? And that gives you feedback, how you went, okay? Now, depending on that feedback, you can choose to, again, do something different or not do something. And every time you, right, do one of these three, you again get feedback. So it's a constant feedback between, right, Arpana Buddhi and what we call Prasada. Prasada Buddhi. Prasada Buddhi. That means what kind of an intellect do you have? So this is component 2 of Karma Yoga. So component 1, this is considering the well-being of your actions and somebody else's actions, ensuring that at any moment, your perception includes bits and pieces, but never the whole matter. So your perception is like this. This is the whole matter, right? And your perception only includes bits and pieces like that, like that, like that, like that. This is all you have in your knowledge. But the whole matter, it's so much bigger. All of this, I don't know about, right? I don't know about this. So all we ever focus on is the little bits and pieces of information that we do have. So now, if that is true, which is true because nobody knows the whole thing, how accurate are your judgments towards yourself and the other person? How accurate are they? You see, you can say they're partially, but they never include the whole aspect. So if you consider this, it makes you now rethink, what is the real value of my judgments, right? And my conclusions about a person, a colleague, parents, the society, the president, the vice president, countries, kids, today's generation, okay? You only ever speak from bits and pieces. Bits and pieces. You don't know about everything else. It's outside your periphery. Because of that, because of the red color, I can hold back my opinions. I don't have to be so kind of impulsive about this is how it is. And I know because I have experience, 40 years, 50 years of experience, I know. You never know. Even if you're 1,000 years old, still you have bits and pieces. Because of that, Ishwara Arpana Buddhi, I'm only ever offering to Ishwara's order, which is vast, way vaster than I could ever comprehend. For that reason, it makes us more discerning, less impulsive, more considerate towards our habitual ways of having to, right, give some kind of a opinion about something, right? This opinion is my standpoint from the best ascertained information that I have right now. At the same time, I am fully open to recognizing that I'm not including the whole big picture about you, who you are, who I am, what is to reveal itself tomorrow, 1 month from now. All of this is outside our periphery. It's outside of that. For that reason, there's no need to sort of have this pressure that I've got to carry this opinion about this person or the situation, about the politician or about the country. The pressure just falls away because you don't know everything. And as long as you carry these bits and pieces, okay, these small bits and pieces about something, and there's pain, it gives you discomfort or absence of peace, pain. That pain is an indicator, Ishwara's feedback, that my vision isn't complete. Because the harmony of the world, the harmony, the nature of the world is harmony. But there's disharmony in my mind. So this means if there's disharmony in my mind, which comes as pain, that means my perceptions about the world, about myself, about the other is not complete. So if it's incomplete, then the question is, what do I do about it? Well, first of all, acknowledge. You can say, I still have to make a decision. Isn't that true? You still got to make a decision. I'm not saying now, because you don't have the full facts, never make a decision. You still got to make a decision, end of the day. But recognize that there is no need to hold these, right, this heaviness, these grudges, and this kind of pressure that if I'm doing the right thing. Because even if you act and you got information, a lot of information, there could still be a chance that something else comes out tomorrow that you don't know about. So this whole pressure of having to be perfect, of having to say the right thing, of, you know, having to kind of be this, you know, role model, this ideal person, this ideal wise person, how they're always painted in the books. Unattainable. It's unattainable. The person that's totally equanimous, never wavers, you know, is just totally indifferent. All these one-worded statements. It sounds great in theory, I tell you. It sounds great in theory. But real life, I will show you very soon how real life is able to break down any theory like that. I will show you through scientific studies, maybe in this lesson, which reminds me to move on. Okay? Therefore, Karma Yoga, I know, Kerry, 2 parts. Doing the best I can in any one moment, knowing fully well that I don't have all the facts. I'm only acting from bits and pieces of my perception of the whole. Now, when I do act, when I make a decision, then there's a certain feedback mechanism that comes to me. Now, that feedback mechanism is called prasada buddhi. That means I have an intellect that recognizes this is my opportunity for growth. It's like a gift. Prasada, it's like a gift. It's an opportunity for growth, for transformation, if I choose to respond differently this time. If you don't respond differently, that's fine. But if you want a double benefit from any response, then there's a chance to respond differently. As I said last week, it's easy to kind of say, you know, I'm not changing, I'm not changing, I'm not changing. I want transformation. I've been through this 5 years. I've been listening 10 years. There's no change. People say this, but life is never not giving you a chance to transform, because you're always getting something new in your life and you're asked to respond. And when you respond differently, it negates this unconscious habit that's holding one back. It kind of weakens it, and it opens up a door for something new, a new way to respond. So that is the point of transformation. When something comes to me in life from whomever it is, how I respond in that moment, that is my chance for transformation, for snapping yourself out of your old habituated ways. That is the golden opportunity. Including today when somebody asks you, hey, make me dinner, or clean up the house, or take the trash out, or go build a house, okay? Somebody asks you that. Now you can say, who are you to ask me? Or you can say, oh, okay, I'll do this for you, love, gladly. Or you can not respond, and you can say, let me get back to you in 5 minutes. Something different, whatever it is. Because you're snapping out of that mechanical way, like snapping every time. So you snap out of that, okay? Therefore, these 2 ways help you to live life with a more meaningful way, a less stressful way. Now, one more thing about prasada buddhi is that we say that whatever comes to you, recognize that it is coming from a vast network. And this network is ultimately, since you're not away from the network, ultimately in the greatest interest of all people. So this means that rather than going this time, oh, this is not a good thing, oh, why did this happen? Rather, one changes the attitude and recognizes ultimately in the big picture, if you had the big picture, if you had all of the facts, you would recognize whatever has happened was actually the right thing, was actually perfect in the grand scheme of picture. The grand scheme, if you could see it. Now, I know we don't, but if you could see it, you would recognize, wow, how come I never saw this before? This was perfect. This was all just an unfoldment of the grand cosmic play that totally went out of my thought system. I never considered it. It's a cosmic play. So the whole thing is within a cosmic play, and I'm a participant within it. You are a participant in this cosmic play. And I know it's not easy to see this, especially when we're entangled. But at least you can say and take Krishna's words, the whole thing has been going on for eons and will continue to go on. And you are just one character playing out your role temporarily. That's given strengths, and you got weaknesses, and you got opportunities like everyone else. And thereby, I can take it less, a little bit less kind of, less hot emotions, more involved, but less hot emotions. We call this dispassion. Less hot emotions, but at the same time, more involved, because you simply recognize it's a cosmic play, and I've got to work out my part here for a short time. And whatever comes to me, I've got to do my part. There's no other way. There's no choice. And every time you do your part, you get confidence, because when you resolve something, okay, you watch yourself and you go, wow, I broke through that. I got myself out of that. What else can I do? Every time you do the right thing, it builds confidence, which is why it's very important not to spoil our children. You see, I was watching Dr. Phil, actually. Dr. Phil is a great guy, and he uses very short, few words, but very intelligent, in my opinion. He said to one of the girls, she was 15 years old, and he said to her parents, because she was spoiled, she wanted a car, $2,500 a month. In our age, we didn't get any of that. At least I didn't, Now they want this money, they want a car. And he said to the parents, overindulgence, overindulging your kids is a form of child abuse. And I thought about this. What does this mean? Overindulging your kids, giving them whatever they want, you deny them the opportunity to go out and work things out on their own and gain the confidence by seeing, I can do it on my own. So it's interesting, two ways to do things. One of them is to have all your desires fulfilled, given to you on a silver platter. But the expense of that, even though it's the easy way, the expense of that is I don't get to develop confidence in myself. Now, if I can't develop confidence that I can work simple things out, how is that person going to work things out that they are the truth of the whole thing, that they are the whole? So we have to develop relative confidences in ourselves, and that's the purpose of karma yoga. Therefore, this prasada buddhi isn't just recognizing everything is an opportunity to change, to transform, to do something different. It is also recognizing that this is a cosmic play that you and I are in, and it has to be done according to your role, your part in this world, according to where the specific place that you have been put. Why are you put in that place and I am put in this place and someone else is put in another place? Why? Because all of us are in the same order, Ishvara's order, and we are given unique talents, unique strengths, and every person plays an important role. So in a sense, you have no choice but to work out your role, to play out your role, to work out your character. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to mature. That's the only way to develop confidence in oneself, relative confidence in oneself. So that one can then say, I have done enough in my life. I have done enough in my life to come in class and say, I can work this out. I can work out the greatest equation ever, that you and Ishvara are one. You can work out so many things. You can work out how to send man to the moon, go to Mars. It's amazing kind of things that we work out, how to train all about text online and create, you know, a data learning algorithm, which fancy name they call AI, right? And it can answer questions. But to work out your truth, you haven't really worked anything out until you work out your truth. Because look at this. If the truth is one, it includes everything at the same time, simultaneously. So if I work myself out, if you work yourself, the one self, what it is, that you are not different, that you are that self. And since that self is the whole thing, everything is that self. Everything is one. Everything is self. There's nothing that is apart from the self. So if I get to understand that I am that self, instantly I have come to understand everything at once. Everything at once, the known and the unknown, which is why verse 52 says, once this karma yoga sharpens up your intellect and sharpens up this instrument, you then get to realize this self, what it is, permanently recognize the self to be you, none other than you. In fact, there's nothing other than the self. And what happens then? Naturally, this passion in the verse, it says, nirvedam, nirvedam. That means this passion develops towards the both shruta and shrotavya, both the heard and the unheard. That means I have a certain now objectivity towards what is yet to be heard and what is heard already. I have a certain dispassion, objectivity towards the known and the unknown worldly pursuits. How many unknown worldly pursuits are there that you and I don't know about? There are a lot more than known, right? How many unknown things have we, how many things have we not heard about in contrast to how many things we have heard about? See this? So many more. So this means that once I recognize one self, all that is here is this self, and that is not different from you. You are that self. Everything about your body is the self also. Your eyelids is the self. The seeing is the self. Your thought is the self. The whole thing is the self. Once I know that, then what more possibly is there that is unheard and not pursued? What more can I possibly hear? Because if the self is everything, then how can I not, right? How can I chase for more if the more is not excluded from the one self? Therefore, all of your pursuits for more stop, because you realize I have recognized the final thing. And it's me. The whole thing is I, one I here, one cosmic play that has been fooling you for a long time, fooling us for millennia, looking at I as this little body who's subject to degradation and growth and maturity. And now that shift has happened, that recognition of the truth has happened. And at once, you are now the whole thing. The body still remains for a short amount of time. This is called your prarabdha karma. And you have to still participate as though one in the many, but you know, like the wave recognizes, right? The wise wave. The wise wave still carries the waveness with it for a short amount of time, but recognizes its truth is the whole thing, the whole ocean, because water is through the ocean and it's also through every wave in the ocean. So there's not one drop in the ocean that is not the water. So wherever that wave, that wise wave, looks around, suppose you give it two eyes, it looks over there, it's going to find water. It looks over there, it's going to find more water. It looks behind the unknown, the not pursued, that which I don't know. What is it going to find? It's going to find water. Now you got right next door the unwise wave. It's still the same water, but that unwise wave's I, self, where is that self localized? To that one single wave. So this means when that wave falls, What has fallen? I have fallen. And because I have fallen, because the law is such that nothing can go out of existence, when I fall, I come back as another wave. And then I fall again, and I come back as another wave. Whereas the wise waves, knowledge of self, who I am, recognizes that there is no place here, including in this wave too, that I cannot find the one same substance. The one substance which is through and through the wise wave and the unwise wave. And for a short amount of time, there is this wave that is still chilling out, and it's still, kind of tall, and it's still, in the world. And people look at this wave, this wise wave, and what do they say about this wise wave? You're ignorant. You're stupid, like anyone else. Which is why, if you remember a few verses back, what did Krishna say? The wise person can be like an ignorant, can act like an ignorant, can look like an ignorant, can say ignorant things, and other people will say, no, you're just another like anyone else. What's so special about you? You don't have a halo around you. You're like anyone else. And therefore, that wise wave participates its journey in this ocean of the whole play for a short amount of time, a little bit longer, knowing its truth is not different from the ocean. My truth, the wave's truth, and Ishwara's truth, here Ishwara is compared to the ocean. My truth and Ishwara's truth is one. It is the water. Now, you can't say that the wave is the ocean. You can't say that the ocean's size is the same size as the wave size. The wave, even if it's wise, is small, is limited, is bound to crashing on the shore and merging with the ocean, is subject to all of that. That is a fact. So when I say, as a wave, that my truth and Ishwara truth is one, I am not saying that I am Ishwara. I'm not saying that I am the ocean, because there isn't what we call an upadi difference. There isn't a difference. You don't know how to fly a plane. You don't know how to drive a motorcycle unless you do, or something else. So in that sense, there is still so many unknown things. But because they're unknown, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother you as a wise person. Because so what? Where is all of that knowledge going? It's going towards one wave out of the many. So have I really learned anything? Only if you see yourself as one wave. But in actuality, the whole thing is you, because you as the water pervades the entire ocean, also pervades every wave in the ocean. So in essence, the whole thing is you, the known and the unknown. But while there is a wave, forget about it. You're not going to know everything. Never. So that I have to appreciate and be okay with that. But the unwise wave is not okay with that. I'm going to polish this instrument until eternity. I'm going to develop myself. I'm going to work on myself as the wave. I'm going to be the best, the tallest, the most handsome, the most prettiest, the most amazing wave that all the other waves have ever seen. And therefore, the journey becomes of polishing oneself up. It becomes such an exhausting journey. And then when you hit 50s or 60s, you realize that kids who are 12 years old, they can recite the entire periodic table of elements, and they make you feel so small now because your skills are gone. Your skills have degraded. But the wise person isn't subject to this kind of a constant reminder of my smallness, because the I is placed in the whole entire ocean. So you can see this is not some theoretical thing. It's an entire transformation of what it means to be, what it means to exist. Therefore, karma yoga is a means by which you come to this knowledge where this wave can polish itself up and understand its truth, and Ishwara's truth is the same, one and the same. Okay. Now, Carrie had a question, if you still have one.
I was just trying to, I maybe don't quite understand these two terms, Arpana and Prasada Buddhi, and I was trying to relate these to, how Arjuna is doing in his life, on the stage that he's playing on in his life.
Sure. Sure. So Arjuna is us. Okay, we are Arjunas who are, we're doing the journey of life. Arjuna is doing the journey in his life. He's got his things and we've got our things. So he's assigned his little role in life in this big cosmic vision, but we are too. Now, Arjuna has to, remember, when I say Arjuna, it's you, I'm talking to you. Arjuna has to, right, being part of this big vision, this big play, is not outside the laws. So Arjuna's recognition is that I have no choice but to align myself to certain principles of life, to certain harmonies of life. If I'm not aligned, then I'll suffer, right? If I'm just sort of cheating and lying and kind of getting my ways here, it's just gonna, it's gonna come onto me and it's gonna be very restrictive. It's gonna take the peace away and it's gonna pollute my mind. And it's just hard to live like that. So that's Arpana Buddhi. That's the first word. So Arpana Buddhi means that while you're a participant, because you didn't create this world, nor the laws, you have really no choice but to participate with the laws. You can violate those laws, but there's a feedback system. Now that feedback system is what's called Prasada Buddhi. So Arjuna was constantly doing things in this world. He was like all of us, but he was also getting the responses from his colleagues, from his cousins, from his brothers, and so he had to constantly adjust his approach. For example, he was with Drona, and Drona asked both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, look up into the tree and get ready to shoot. But before you shoot, what do you see in there, up there? What do you see? And Arjuna, according to his role, he says, well, this is what I see. I see, the pupil of the bird. I see that, nothing more. And then he gets feedback from Ishvara, from Drona. And Drona says, good, you have learned well. You are following your duty. You're following your swadharma. Therefore, Arjuna got that response and he was able to, now go, thank you, thank you, teacher, for letting me know that I saw the right thing. Because if I said I see, I see the world, it's full of pollution. I see people are all bad, no one's really, loving each other. If I say that, then Ishvara gives me feedback. And what kind of feedback does Drona Ishvara give you? It says, well, when you make these statements about the world, about, judgmental statements, how can you live in peace like that if you just keep on going like that, on and on and on? You see? Now, you don't have to answer it or not because it's so obvious that you can't escape it. So that feedback system lets you know if you are in harmony with the world. Now, if you can't do something, right? If you cannot do as Arjuna, then someone else can, right? But you ask yourself, what little can I contribute or deliver or offer or present in this situation? What little can I give? If there's nothing that you can give, that's fine. You can then, move on, but someone else will certainly give. So like this, the world is always asking you for a response. And you always have a chance to do something, not do something, or do something different. And every time you do, you get a feedback. And that feedback, again, lets me respond differently, thereby transforming my responses. Therefore, it's this is the practicality, the application of these two in living. All right, so that was verse 52. Now, verse 53 is going to say, so coming to see that moksha, as I said, includes everything, oneself includes everything. And you really see that. It's not just, oh, yeah. Okay, nice words. You really see that. You take it seriously. Then what happens is your attitude, right, starts to change, right? You kind of spend less time not like intentionally or deliberately, just, you move away from toys, like an adult moves away from toys into more focused things. Now, in this case, this focused thing is a pursuit of moksha. That means turning life into a devotion, an expression of this one order. So this is verse 53. Shruti vipratipanate yada sthasyati nishchala samadha vachala buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi.
When your mind is no longer distracted by the Vedas, which present various means and ends to be gained, it will remain steady, firmly established in the self. Then you will gain self-knowledge.
So mind is no longer distracted by Vedas, which present various means and ends. Okay. So how many means and ends? There's only one end. But the Veda points out there are three kinds of means to this one end. And they are the four pursuits of life, we could say. The first is security, right? We all want house, food. You want to wake up knowing that you can take care of yourself. This is artha. You want to have, sometimes it goes to the extreme faith, or kind of extreme, faith is also a form of security, faith in something, a belief in something. That's why people always have a need to believe something, even if it's crazy, like aliens who are watching over us, who are governing and watching, controlling all of our actions. That's a belief, but it still gives the person a certain security, fame, a house, as I said, right? A bank account that is, relatively, filled up. You see, if you take any one of these out, then you can kind of go through life, but it's going to be such a big burden. It's like a little thorn in the back of the mind. So this is for all of us. Everyone's got a need for family and community, and someone's there to help you out when you get old, to take care of you. This is, right? I'm not going to say you don't need this and all of this is, you can say this all you want, but real life is going to be very, very different to these, magical statements, how the wise person is totally independent. The fact is, you need people for your livelihood. We all need each other at the end of the day. And then there's kama. Kama is all sorts of entertainment and luxury. Sometimes even security can become a form of kama or pleasure, like food. Food is, for the most part, was security, but then something happened. For the sake of emotional management, it became a form of pleasure. But besides the point, adult entertainment, kids entertainment, whatever, you got these little water parks, TV shows, soap operas, tennis, sports, huge, right? Huge. World Cup, Olympics, all of this is kama. Pleasure. It's a lot of pleasure for people to see and enjoy and have a good time and connect. And then there is dharma. These are the universal values that we all recognize in ourselves, that I don't want to hurt myself. I actually don't want to hurt you. If a person is really honest, they will come to see this. You don't want to hurt me and you don't want to hurt yourself, because hurting somebody else hurts you. If the person is clear enough in their mind, they will come to see this. It hurts you. So this is the feedback mechanism. It's built in. This is why you feel it. You didn't learn. Nobody told you, by the way. The society never told you. You will feel bad when you hurt someone. No one says this to you. It's inbuilt, like a program, like a software. And then there is moksha. Moksha is freedom from smallness, this sense of inadequacy. I'm inadequate. I am the small little thing here that's going to make my way big in this world. I've got to be somebody. I want to be recognized. I want to be seen and validated and acknowledged. It is also freedom from becoming, a constant sense of becoming someone, becoming something, becoming someone bigger. I'm bigger today than yesterday. This is all necessary, by the way, as kids, as children, and in adulthood, it's also necessary. But moksha is this, right? It's a release from this person that's constantly needing to improve. Now, how many goals, then the Vedas asks, how many real goals are there? Because we listed out 4. But how many goals really are there?
Only moksha.
Only moksha. Now, okay. Why? Would you like to explain? Why is there only moksha? What's the rationale or reason behind that?
Because rest all is aligned to the teachings, aligned to the Vivaharik Jagat. And the Veda finally wants to take you to realization of Paramarthik Satya, which finally means moksha only. So therefore, if you pursue the other 3 goals, you remain within the Jagat for the happiness, attainment of happiness within the Jagat only.
Okay, okay, this is a good technical explanation, and it will check out for a Vedantin. However, for a normal person, right, what is Vyavaharika, what is Jagat, what is Paramarthika? So that's a good answer. But I want to give another kind of answer, which anyone can relate with. So would someone like to revise this answer in a way that anyone would ultimately understand without Vedantic words? Sheila?
Give me one more chance.
Okay, I'll go Gautam and now Sheila.
I'll take on from your previous example. I am trying to become a bigger wave, a happier wave, a better wave, a more profound wave. But the moksha makes you realize that you are water, and therefore you are the entire ocean.
Okay, okay, good. I still agree with that from a Vedantic standpoint, but I could still argue that and say, because for a normal person, their moksha is always going to be security, always going to be entertainment, and it's always going to be being a good person. So their idea of moksha is very different from our understanding. So knowing that, would someone like to try? Michael is going ahead. Actually, I said Sheila. I want to keep my word. I saw Sheila first.
Try. I don't know if this captures it. For example, let's say I'm going to travel from here to Melbourne, that is San Francisco to Melbourne. And the journey is fantastic. I love the journey so much that I don't want to get off the journey. I just want to keep on doing the journey. I don't want to get to the goal, which is to get off at my destination, which would be, in this case, moksha. Does that capture it?
Okay, I'm just looking at my responses. I'm still agreeing at the Vedantic level, but I'm not connecting with you at an ordinary human level. So, okay, but I give you 10 out of 10, both Gautam and Sheila, for Vedantic knowledge. Like, let's go into Michael.
I would say it's because all of the pursuits, whether it's Artha, Dharma, Karma, the reason is for fulfillment. And what we come to know as we learn Advaita is that is always going to just lead to wanting more or wanting or not being fulfilled. The only real fulfillment is moksha and the attainment of one.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear that response? That to me sounds a lot more relatable. Okay. Anyone else? Vijay?
Yeah, somewhat similar to what Michael just said. We are all seeking something which is limited, and deep inside we want that limitless joy. That's the reason we keep pursuing the same enjoyment again and again, because we get some pleasure out of it, but not the real happiness which we are all seeking, because we are limitless. Deep inside, the Swarupa is limitless. So we are wanting to experience that limitlessness. And that comes only with moksha, I feel.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that gets a wow. Carrie?
Well, I'd say it's because, of all the goals that you can have, relationships, fame, power, anything, they're all impermanent. And moksha is permanent and it's unchanging.
Okay. All right. We're getting much, much closer. So actually, I'm going to give 10 out of 10 to everyone because you're doing well now. These answers are doing well because it all started with Gautam, and then Sheila added, and then Michael added, and then Vijay added. Now everyone's adding on to everyone else. So this is how we're all helping each other to create an excellent answer. And Pankaj?
By obtaining moksha, everything else is obtained. That after reaching moksha, you need nothing else. That is complete. Whereas all other dharma, arth, kam, they are not complete. They don't give total fulfillment. Total fulfillment comes only when you reach moksha.
Okay. So yeah, so this is again that Vedantic kind of perspective. Okay, yep. As Stephen?
I would say it's to finally understand who or what you really are, as opposed to this limited individual personality.
Right, okay. So I'm very happy with all of the answers, and perhaps, okay, Carrie wants to say something else? No? Okay, cool. So, okay, I don't think I can give a better answer now that you have all come together and created some, good. But I want to say this. See, end of the day, when you pursue, say, this is what Michael was saying, or you're going somewhere, right, from California to Melbourne, or you're wanting to get something, end of the day, it's almost like a burden, a struggle to carry that itch that I have to go through this to feel happy. I have to travel. I have to kind of connect to this. I have to come in union with this object to finally feel happy. It's kind of a struggle, right? After some years to go through that over and over and over again. And the person starts to ask themselves, why can I just not be happy automatically all the time? Why can I just not be contentful without having to go through these hoops of having to have this house and money and fame and be someone and have partner telling me I love you every 5 minutes? Why can I just not be okay on my own? Like totally just naturally contentful, at peace, without external validation, without external inputs, without having to put my body through these extreme heights of, with all due respect to these extreme sports, for example. I was watching the other day, the wingsuit, the wingsuit. You jump from a mountain, no parachute yet, right? Jump from a mountain and you fly like a bird. You can strike a rock any moment. Such extreme. And you look at the stories, like, why do you like this? Wow, it gives me such a high, such a thrill. Of course it gives you a thrill. You're totally at one with yourself. You're not thinking about anything. Well, you got to just maneuver every micro movement. You got to move through these rocks and you're flying at 150 kilometers an hour, 100 miles an hour. Of course you're at one with yourself. So much has to go we have to go through so much just to be okay with who we are, just to be happy, just to be contentful. So in a sense, moksha becomes, if you want to translate moksha, that natural freedom, that natural sense of completeness, wholeness, irrespective of whether I am offered a thrill or whether the thrills are not there. You're just okay with the way that things are. You're okay with yourself. You're okay with the world. You're okay with the matters. You're okay with this domestic and local and international affairs. It's fine. You have a certain model, a certain understanding how the world works, and the world is complex, and you don't have to understand the whole thing. You only have to do your little part, and that much I am okay with. So in other words, the demands go down. The demands for this and security and wealth and money and recognition and fame and children and spouse and partner and affirmations and quality time, all of that, it sort of just, it no longer like grabs you. It's like, yeah, it's there, but I'm okay. I'm okay. Like it's appreciated, but I'm okay. I really am. So it's like this. So end of the day, you really want to be free from this constant itch of desire fulfillment. I've got to scratch this little itch to be okay with it. Like another mosquito bite. Let me scratch. Until I scratch it, I'm not okay with it. I want to be free from this need to constantly have to follow the rules of the game. The rules, I have to do the right thing. I'm in this order and I feel like this person that wants to sort of just be free and I've got to follow these rules. This is where rebelliousness gets born. That's why we have these groups, of rebellion. I don't want to follow the rules because something in me is speaking. I am inherently a free individual. I'm not even subject to these laws and rules that I have to follow. I want to be free from the constant need to chase security, to feel okay with myself. I want to be free from this need to, to have to get someone to love me so I can feel some kind of a worthiness about myself. It's kind of annoying to have to constantly need that. You just want to have that by yourself without any external input. And it doesn't mean that you kind of like, yeah, whatever, you love me, I'm sorry, you love me, no, what, done, save it, Mr. and Mrs. No, it's still nice to hear that and to get a hug. But in overall, you are generally contentful with what is, with yourself and with the way that the things are. Therefore, moksha ultimately, if you want to translate moksha now into freedom from a sense of limitation, moksha therefore becomes everyone's ultimate pursuit, even if they don't know why they are pursuing 1,000 different pursuits. Ultimately, as we all said collectively, you want to be free from this smallness, that I'm a small person until I do this. I'm a small person until you say you love me. I'm a small person until I have, whatever, 10,000 students. I'm a small person until I get every lady looking at my direction, or vice versa. This is a huge deal, and it's very stifling. It's restrictive, and it's not pleasant at all. Ultimately, it's not pleasurable. It's not pleasant. Therefore, the person wants relief from 10 million conditions that have to be satisfied so that I can be happy. And those conditions seem to never, ever end. There's always one more condition that has to be satisfied, which is why relationships are so hard, because there's always one more thing that I want. Now that you've kind of become this person, I can now see you becoming something else. So now I put pressure on you and I want you to become something even better. And this person's constantly under pressure. They can never satisfy your needs. And you can't ever satisfy their needs because they're doing the same thing onto you. Therefore, moksha, freedom from this whole show of never-ending satisfaction. Satisfaction that can never be pleased. It becomes a heavy thing onto one's self, that you just want to kind of solve the problem. I want to be free from this nonsense. Nonsense of 10 million rules that have to be satisfied. And therefore, eventually, someone puts their hand up like Ellie, and she asks a question.
So my question is, how do we, it's almost like I'm thinking that then do we have to erase like all the stuff that we incarnated into this life, ancestral trauma, childhood trauma, cultural trauma. How do we, it's like we just put that in the back seat and keep moving forward, because all that's there. So it sounds like, oh, when you have moksha, all that disappears. But I don't believe that.
Okay, so Ellie's got a good question, and it's a common question. And it's one where we sort of have this idea that moksha magically solves trauma, childhood indoctrinations, unpleasant, judgments, this pressure to have certain ways of conduct. No. It's relatively. This is where karma yoga has to come in first. So karma yoga becomes an intervening factor. Because it's a good question to ask, Ellie, because now, having said this, it now seems like moksha is this impossible to reach goal, right? So now you have to give an intervening factor and say, first, you need to relatively resolve your childhood trauma. Relatively, not completely. It will never be completely resolved. Understand this. Forget about being a perfect person, but just enough so that I can take an interest in Vedanta, take an interest in my well-being, take an interest in being a contributor in this world, take an interest coming from a sense of contribution rather than taking. This has to take shift, but it's not moksha that causes the shift. It is karma yoga that causes the shift. So we often think that moksha makes the person dispassionate, discriminative, highly thoughtful, solves their childhood trauma. No, all of that was solved before moksha took place. Because, and when I say solved, not completely, but relatively solved, relatively taken care of, to the point where you were available enough in class to not think about how my daughter got divorced, my brother got divorced, my mom died, my father died, and my body's here, but where is my mind? Somewhere else. It's in the world. So this has to come down relatively enough so that you, the person, the mind, can be fully available to what is being said. I've seen this so many times where people are going through some relationship issue. 99% of issues are through relationships, I get it. And they're in class, but I can tell their body's in class, but their mind is in that recent event. And that's what we don't want. Therefore, you need some lifestyle, some general attitude that's going to take care of this immensity of the mind to constantly go on to and use somebody else. Oh, my husband's doing that. Oh, Andre, my husband's doing that. No, I'm not talking about your husband. I'm talking about you. So there's this tendency of the mind to constantly want to go outwards, onto my children, onto the society. I'm talking about, this is between you and I. It's a intimate relationship between guru and shishya. It is a shishya's inquiry. What am I? What are my blind spots? Is there something that I am missing out here? Even though it's very nice to think that you're always right, we all have this. I'm right. No, I've got it. I'm right. It's usually not the case. So the Vedanta comes in and says, hey, look at your lifestyle, please. Start to be self-reflective around your own limitations. And the more you become self-reflective, the more moksha is going to automatically grow on you. It's going to become more and more of a normal thing, a normal pursuit, nothing magical. No more Buddha, oh, Buddha under a tree. All of this nonsense that belonged to spiritual novices, it all goes away. And now you just recognize moksha is a normal thing for every human being. Just because we don't have it in society, don't think it is something special. In fact, in the Vedic times, we had this as a normal thing in families, right? You go to Gurukulam, you learn about self-knowledge. When you grow up, you're a little bit 30s, 40s, or whatever, they didn't live very long back then, maybe 30 years old, already you knew this knowledge. It was normal. And therefore, karma yoga helps you to sort these relative issues belonging to the person. And thereby, then this whole discernment between what we self and not self, atma and anatma, it becomes spontaneous, it becomes an unbroken recognition. What is I here and what is incidental? It becomes normal, and you've done it. You can go back into the world. In fact, there's no going back. You were always in the world. So there's no going back. You just continue things as they always are, as they always have been. But you have solved the main issue. Now, for the wise person, don't think that, see, I just want to make something very clear here. Because we think, when we see these verses, we will soon start to, maybe some of us, start to think, when the person is liberated, nothing touches them, right? Their mind never again wavers. It never again kind of, goes off track. The off track, the derailment happens at the level of the mind. But when there is a derailment of the mind, I don't go, oh, I now forgot who I am. I need to go back to class and remember what is the nature of the self. That no longer happens. For the one that is ignorant, they feel like, oh, my mind's now off track. I'm derailed. I lost peace. It's all gone. I need to go back and remember who I am. That's the language of the one who is yet to understand this. You see this? So both of them, both the wise person and the unwise person, both minds will derail themselves, 100% guaranteed. You just put a mind inside, a high-pitched noise environment, whether you're wise or not, you're going to feel pain. You can't avoid it. But the wise person is not going to say, oh, the moment this ordeal is over, I think I've kind of forgot who I am because this was so disturbing. I forgot who I am. I need to go and remind myself. That is no longer there. For the unwise person who is in the Gita and still trying to, or wherever it is, I'm not saying we're unwise or wise. That's not what I'm saying. But the person who's still getting it, they will feel like, because I got disturbed in my life, I need to go back and remember who I am because the light came off temporarily. So there's no more lights coming on and off. This is solved. The light is constantly on, in and through, waking up, sleep, pain, no pain, on the bed, illness, wherever you are, there's no sense of, do I still know who I am? All of that is gone for the wise person. So we are now talking about the management of the mind. And that's what Karma Yoga is for. Managing your mind, helping yourself make this journey of life in a smooth, polished fashion. While, of course, attending to, weekly reminders and so on. We all need that. Otherwise, the mind's going to derail itself. This is what it does. It goes back to its old patterns. This is why we have a weekly meetup.
Yes, Andre. Talking about the trauma, ancestral trauma, childhood trauma, and all that thoughts and pictures or images comes from the mind. That's the only place it comes from. So obviously, that's the only place we can resolve the situation.
Yeah.
So I look at it as like you really ask yourself, what can you get out of that trauma, that childhood memory? What better can you get other than the pain or the suffering you went through? And so I look at that, and then majority of us have gone through this, I think, in many different aspects of it. And I look at it as something that you can actually deal with it with a positive attitude, like the Prashada Buddhi. So, yeah, the mind is, funny enough, when you think about it, it's the simplest way to resolve any problem. It's in the mind.
Yeah,
the mind is the one that deviates all the suffering we have with relationships, with whatever, friendships.
It really is.
So, talk to your mind,
Very good point.
yeah, it's a lot of suffering in the mind.
Very nice point, Rani. And also what you say, Rani, is because of this, because our perception can only get bits and pieces of the whole picture. If you knew the whole picture, you would probably have nothing but compassion and empathy for the situation. So the reason why we don't have compassion and empathy is because we're only kind of stuck to one or two situations. That's why they say compassion or empathy is the highest human trait, because it says so much about you. You're able to look at the pieces, you're able to acknowledge that I don't know, you're able to be okay with the fact that you don't know, you're able to see that this person, whoever they are, is going through pain, going through their own confusions as much as I am. So you're able to address all of this. So in that sense, you're a lot more at peace with this situation. And that peace, again, is a product of a still mind. Yeah. So lack of peace, mind, peace is also in the mind.
Hello, Andre. I'm just trying to correlate Karma Yoga with the causal body. So, like this self-knowledge, right? It's at the intellect level, and all the patterns which are there, even the ignorance that I am this body mind, it must also be at the causal body level. So, is Karma Yoga a way to attack those patterns at causal level? Because if we have self knowledge at intellect level, then those patterns can come back from the causal body to your mind, isn't it?
Karma Yoga, it helps you to come to a point to see that this very intellect is the only instrument you have for moksha, no doubt.
Yeah.
But through this intellect, you come to see that you have awareness, your real nature, which is true right now. You have no connection to the causal body nor the very intellect. So you need the causal body and the intellect to come to see that you, now this you does not refer to Ashish. It does not refer to the causal body, to the subtle body, to the gross body. It doesn't refer to that. It refers to what is true right now, in this moment, Brahman. I have no connection to Ashish. Now, Ashish's mind is required to come to that point, to realize that. So Karma Yoga sharpens up the instrument, the Ashish's instrument called Buddhi, right? Ashish's instrument to come to see that, to able to appreciate that truth. That's all it is. So he's simply sharpening up, making this instrument valid and more competent and more, more discerning, more dispassionate. And when it is, when it's capable enough, it comes to see, oh, that which lights up this Buddhi of mine, this intellect, that's the real I. It's not the intellect. So in a sense, the intellect is required to see that there is something other than the intellect, which makes the intellect work. For example, the intellect can stop calculating right now. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 2 + 3, right? The intellect can stop calculating, but there's still a unchanging presence through and through all of that. So the intellect is required to see its own truth, which is awareness. And when it comes to that recognition, at once, my I is no longer in the intellect or the subtle body or the physical body or the causal body.
Yes, thank you.
That was answered for you about 75%. I can see it on your face.
No, actually, the confusion I have is, so knowledge takes place at the intellect, and in my buddhi, intellect is the only way through which we can get moksha. But if we inculcate this knowledge, cannot our impressions at the causal, which you call pressures, change your intellect again? I mean, it can force you to think that you are body and mind, because that has been since eons, like lifelong you have been thinking like this, and this should be somewhere at the causal level.
Okay, no. Because once you recognize that is not I, it's permanent. It never goes back. Once I discover a fact like this, whatever it is, a pen, and once I discover, oh, it's on me, right? Or whatever. Once I find something, I'm looking something in the house. Once I find it, I can't ever again go, oh, where is it? It's permanent. So moksha is only a one-time recognition. When you recognize this body, subtle body is not you, because subtle body, look at it, subtle body, if you don't use this technical word, it just means desires. Are you your desire? If you were your desire, then when the desire goes away, you would go away. Do you go away when your desires go away? No, there's still an I, there's still a presence and awareness when the desire has gone away. Desire is nothing but your causal body.
Yeah.
Therefore,
Right.
you don't need the causal body to exist. You don't need the causal body to be. Because the causal body is constantly changing as a form of your desires, how what's the kind of thoughts that come inside your mind. This is all causal body, Ashish.
Yeah.
Now, when that goes away, have I gone away? No. There's still a presence in I, a general I, an existence and awareness that is still here, shining the next, waiting in whose presence the next thought, the next causal body desire is going to pop in and out. So in that sense, you don't need the causal body to exist.
I just wanted to say, like what Ashish is saying, and I feel, I'll just express what I feel. When the Karma Yoga is actually changing the causal body, but causal body is only conditionings.
Yeah.
And we require over a period of time, the thought process is changing, the conditionings are changing, the causal body is eventually changing. And when the causal body is changing, the clarity of mind, the clarity of thought, and everything is happening. And then with that clarity, we go towards moksha.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So essentially, you're changing your conditioning. Conditioning is making you less obsessed over small petty things, which are just, taking your time away. And you're able to be more available, more clean, more clear, more available to the knowledge, more interested in the knowledge, more paying attention to the knowledge. And that naturally just makes you see that that your truth is simply not the causal body. It's an incidental byproduct of this cosmic play.
Yeah, just to add on to Rani's point, sometimes it's hard to get out of the mind as well. Yeah, we know everything is happening in the mind, but it is sometimes very hard for us to get out of the mind and lead our life. So because the point is, because it's not just the conscious mind that we are talking about, it's also what is gone into the subconscious mind, which creates all our habits. Thinking.
Yes. The unconscious is the driver. I'm going to mention the unconscious very soon.
Yeah. And the second point regarding the body and mind, is it because we use the mind to understand that it is the mind and the body is part of the consciousness or presence? It is within the, do we say it's within mind and body is within the consciousness?
The mind-body is an instrument by which you figure out your nature is not bound to the body and the mind. But yes, the body and the mind itself is nothing but consciousness, because we have done a Satya-Mithya relationship, if you remember, and we said if you resolve anything about your thought, you see your thought is 5 elements. It's just matter. It's nothing but matter. Okay? Your body is nothing but matter. It's just atoms. But your thoughts too are nothing but matter. It's just basically 5 elements. And 5 elements has its truth in intelligence, and intelligence has its truth in awareness. And how do we know that intelligence has its truth in awareness or depends upon awareness? Because just take yourself at a normal level, right? Microcosm. Can you have a thought? Because a thought is intelligence. It's ultimately just an intelligent thought. Can you have intelligence outside a conscious person, outside a conscious being? Can you have a thought unless there is consciousness there? See, you can't have a thought, and a thought is just intelligence. It's really just an intelligent putting together of ideas. So you can't have an intelligent putting together of ideas in your own mind without the presence of an awareful I. So if that is the case for the microcosm, that intelligence is also the same intelligence that's putting together this entire universe of time and space. So in that same case, in that same way, the intelligence called Ishvara cannot put the universe together, from which your body called Bhuvana is not excluded from right now, nor is mine. It cannot keep putting this body together as it's doing right now, by the way, not tomorrow. Right now, your body is doing things behind the scenes, digestion, blood, heartbeat, blood pressure, it's all being coordinated, temperature, without any intervention of your own, because intelligence is taking care of it. And that intelligence, just like at the microcosm, cannot do all of that unless it is in the presence of one conscious self. And if you go to the beginning of our talk, that one conscious self is all that is here. One self, which is you, because everything is that self. So you can't be excluded from that self.
If that's okay, I'd just like to share that having listened to you, I missed the first course of this, but I watched it online and now I'm attending in person. What you shared earlier in response to the initial question, I'm not sure who it was, Ashish, was a game changer for me. The recognition that I can't claim anything. I know of nothing which can claim moksha or anything, but what I experience, at least subjectively, is that I'm still here. And I found that very difficult for the longest time to, I'm not sure the word, to rectify, to balance out, and that toing and froing and the who am I, etc. I think the essence of what was being asked or discussed there. and I just wanted to share my appreciation for you putting into words that something is otherwise ineffable. It's an incredibly complicated thing from one perspective, and the multitude of directions in which you can calmly answer that, or in which that can be calmly answered and succinctly answered, is incredible. And I appreciate having that being repeated. And my personal experience is probably very similar to everyone else's, in that it can appear as though the mind has taken over or has some sort of doubt, or there is significant trauma to deal with. And I think some of the tools previously offered to me, or that those in which I picked up that were the best at the time, involved buying into that, or bypassing that, or neglecting that, or various other things that are invariably spruiked in the what you call the spiritual marketplace. And that itself is unending, as I've heard you share. And to know those things have been invaluable for me. It's taken a whole shit ton of pressure off, pardon my language. It's something that I revisit. Again, there's nothing to be claimed in there. I'm not proposing or professing anything that I know anything special, but what it has done is allowed me to address my world, so to speak, as appropriately. And when it boils down to it, in my own self-reflection, regardless of circumstances, regardless of how clear the mind intellect may or may not be, regardless of emotions, or regardless of situations, circumstances, the world, intergenerational trauma, like indefinite list, when it boils down to it, for me, this is just my way of expressing, I already am me. Yeah, I can't actually find a time or place or anything where I'm not.
Yeah.
There's something as closely akin to acceptance, or something, there's a few words, none of them are it, to that which is also ineffable but entirely whole.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I don't have stuff going on. It doesn't mean that I'm right or perfect or better or more advanced or moksha or any other name, form, word or something. I just wanted to reflect that back. One, my appreciation, Andre. You're the first person I've heard. It is listening to this is the first time I've heard those words put in such a way that I was able to hear. And two, knowing that this still is happening, and to integrate that is more and more a gift than a challenge. So I see this stuff, just for me in my language again, whether it be the Bhagavad Gita, whether it be attending this, whether it be social work, whatever, I see this specifically as a kind of framework.
Beautiful.
A framework in which itself allows me to integrate, whether that be needed or not. It allows me to do so whilst I'm still me. Just wanted to share that. So thank you very much.
I certainly appreciate Arkiri's honest words, and it's joyful for me to know that to hear this kind of change, it's what gives me joy to continue. And I also want to thank everyone else who contributed during our session today, because Arkiri said that I put things in a certain way that he got it, but I only said things because of everyone else's input. So I thank to all of us how we are able to reflect this back and forth. Okay. And thank you very much. Now, I'm going to attempt to finish this verse, so please bear with me a little bit longer. The question is now, so Karma Yoga, we said it makes your instrument, right, available to be present, to be able, to receive this knowledge and to connect with the words. But the question then is, why is it that this I keeps on mixing itself up with the mind, right? It's just a common thing. And the reason is because we're not given a pramana. We don't have the teaching. No one's told us. And I want to give you an example. There was a car on the here at the neighbor, and this car on it had these words: Polaris, Polaris. Okay, Polaris. Now, I saw this car the other day, and where did my mind stop? It stopped here. POL. So what did my mind think now? What kind of a car is this? Police. See this? This is how the mind works. It looks at half of information and it completes the other half. And it stops there without any inquiry. Now, these guys were the gardeners. They were gardening. So there was a gardener in front of the pavement and they were like digging something up. And I thought because they're the police, they're digging up a body. So everything... So everything that happened from then on, my mind was literally in a totally different world, creating a different narrative, all because of stopping halfway without a pramana to give me the rest of the knowledge. This is why we keep on mixing this I, Atma, with Anatma. So the way to start this inquiry is the first thing you do. Let's talk practice now, to discern what is I and what is not I. What is the unchanging presence and what is the changing phenomena? Is that you first have to recognize that the changing phenomena is what's called experience. So any kind of experience is always going to be anatma. Any kind of experience or experiencer, okay, experiencer, we just call it ego. This is ego, or knower, okay, or pramata in Sanskrit, pramata, okay? Any kind of experience is a product or generated by your body and your mind. Body, mind, okay? No matter what it is, experience of oneness, okay, experience of sorrow, is experience of joy, okay? And the experiencer himself or herself, whatever you want to call it, it's a genderless experiencer, right? The experiencer itself is just kind of, changing because your ego goes through many roles. It goes through a knower, it goes through a doer, it goes through a experiencer, it goes through the sufferer, it goes through, it disappears in deep sleep. So you can't be the experiencer, right? Because that one who experiences this world, this waking state, where is that experiencer, that ego, that ahamkara? Ahamkara. Is this on the camera? Yes, it is. Okay, where is your ahamkara, your experiencer in deep sleep? Where is this fella in deep sleep? This fella who is constantly experiencing the world, experiencing this conversation between you and I right now. Where is that one in deep sleep? It's gone. Oh. Now, if you were the experiencer, the one that's constantly experiencing the world and the dream, if you were the experiencer, would you go to sleep? No, because that means you would go out of existence. Now, who would like here to go out of existence? Please put your hand up. You want to go out of existence? It's a fun ride, right? You don't want to go out of existence. You want a pleasant existence. In other words, the experiencer is gone, but there is a gladly, I want to go to sleep. Gladly. Who wants to go to sleep gladly when you're tired? We all want to gladly go to sleep. In fact, when a person said all the drugs in the world, like MDMA or whatever you want to call it, what do they say at the end of the day? When all of that pleasure has finally kind of taken a toll on their body, I just want to go to sleep. In other words, I just want to be free of this experiencer so that I can get in touch with something else. And that something else is none other than me, awareness. Okay? And this experience, oneness, sorrow, joy, what is inside the oneness? I am. What is inside sorrow? I am. What is inside joy? I am. Okay? Now this I am does not refer to the experiencer. It does not refer to the experience or the body mind. To any of this, it does not refer. It refers to the awareness. It refers to the unchanging awareness through and through all of your experiences. The joyful experience, the oneness experience, the sorrowful experience, or whatever kind of experience you want to say, call it whatever you want. Who is available in every experience, or what is available in every experience? Me, right? Now, I'm not talking about me somewhere over there, because I know when the mind listens, right, especially a beginner mind, it goes, oh, what is this me he's referring to? Is this me? Who? You, none other than you. When there's an experience, who is there? What is there in every experience? Me, right? From first person, you're forced to say me. Now that me does not refer to the experiencer, that one who is now knowing about kind of, the ego. It's not referring to the ego, and it's not referring to your body and mind. Okay. So this is a basic model, what I want to open up next week. And then we will go on next week in more detail about this. This is just a basic introduction. Now I have to obviously break down what is this experiencer? How do I discern accurately this ego, this ahamkara, this experiencer from awareness? Because this is the essence of moksha. And how do I recognize this mind? I'm going to talk about the mind specifically. What specifically is the mind made of? And how do I discern between I awareness and this mind? So this will be done in more detail. For now, the takeaway is what is in every experience that is changing. When oneness is gone, am I gone? No, but I am available for the sorrow. When sorrow is gone, am I gone? No, but I am available for joy. Now, because this I am seems to be never free from an experience, we keep on attributing every experience onto I am. Therefore, we have a hard time discerning between pure I am and the I am that is constantly contaminated by oneness, by sorrow, by joy. Now, that I am that's constantly contaminated, or right, as though contaminated by the joy, sorrow, and oneness, that's called your ego. Okay? But actually, the truth of this I am, there's only one I. So don't think now that the ego is I1 and awareness is I2. There's only one I. And how do you know there's only one I? Because there's only one I in every experience. Purnamadav, Purnamidam, Purnapudakshate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.